ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, those who are listening from the field of religion, spirituality, arts, commerce and engineering, presence of Saint Dr. Narendra Modi ji, availability of respected doctors and ministers, reverend fathers and mothers, affectionate sons and daughters. You are listening with sense of mind. It is really a great grace and blessing of the Lord that we are listening the skills of learning. Learning skills are very important for everyone. Those who are attending the classes of language, literature and grammar. How these classes are important for them? Due to innovative and inventive skills. It provides you skills training, a program which was started by Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana PMKVY for the training of the youngsters. It was started to make in India, which is the greatest dream for our youngsters, for the recreation, regeneration and reoperation in our nation. Being a starter, beginner and initiator in the different fields, young man can prove it. In the form of Swami Vivekananda, present Prime Minister is addressing the whole world, and there are many essential qualities that are required in an ideal leader of the nation. How we can provide presentation on the essential qualities of a great leader. A presentation is the process of presenting a topic to an audience. It is typically a demonstration, introduction, lecture or speech meant to inform, persuade, inspire, motivate or to build goodwill or to present a new idea or product. The formal presentation of information is divided into two broad categories: presentation skills and personal presentation. These two aspects are interwoven and can be described as the preparation, presentation and practice of verbal and non-verbal communication. Many people feel terrified when asked to make their first public talk. Some of these initial features can be reduced by good preparation that also lays the groundwork for making an effective presentation. A presentation is a means of communication that can be adapted to various speaking situations, such as talking to a group, addressing a meeting, or briefing a team. A presentation can also be based, a presentation can also be used by as a broad term that encompasses other speaking engagements, such as making a speech at a wedding or getting a point across in a video conference. To be effective, step-by-step presentation and the method and means of presenting the information should be carefully considered. A presentation requires you to get a message across to the listeners and will often contain a persuasive element. It may, for example, be a talk about the positive work of your organization, what you could offer an employer, or why you should receive additional funding for a project. A presentation program is often used to generate the presentation content, some of which also allow presentations to be developed collaboratively. For example, using the internet by geographically disparate collaborators. Presentation viewers can be used to combine content from different sources into one presentation. Some of the popular presentation products used across the globe are offered by Apple, Google, and Microsoft. Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides are effective tools to develop slides. Through Google Slides allows groups to work together using Google Drive to update each account as it is edited. Content such as text, images, links, and effects are added into each of the presentation programs to deliver useful consolidated information to a group. The key elements of a presentation. Making a presentation is a key of communicating your thoughts and ideas to an audience. Context. Ask yourself some questions to develop a full understanding of the context of the presentation. When and where will you deliver your presentation? There is a word of difference between a small room with natural light and an informal setting, and a huge lecture room lit with stage lights. The two require quite different presentation and different techniques. What will it be in a setting you are familiar with, or somewhere new? If somewhere new, it would be worth trying to visit it in advance or at least arriving early to familiarize yourself with the room. Will the presentation be within a formal or less formal setting? A work setting will more or less by definition be more formal, but there are also various degrees of formality within that. Will the presentation be to a small group or a large crowd? Are you already familiar with the audience? With a new audience, you will have to build rapport quickly and effectively to get them on your side. What equipment and technology will be available to you and what will you be expected to use? In particular, you will need to ask about microphones and whether you will be expected to stand in one place or move around. What is the audience expecting to learn from you and your presentation? Check how you will be built to give you clues as to what information needs to be included in your presentation. All these aspects will change the presentation. Presenter. The role of the presenter is to communicate with the audience and control the presentation. Remember, though, that this may also include handing over the control to your audience, especially if you want some kind of interaction. The audience receives the presenter's message. However, this reception will be filtered through and affected by such things as the listener's one's experience, knowledge, and personal sense of values. Message. The message or messages are delivered by the presenter to the audience. The message is delivered not just by spoken word, but can be argumentated by techniques such as voice projection, body language, gestures, eye contact, and visual aids. The message will also be affected by the audience's expectations. For example, if you have been billed as speaking on one particular topic and you choose to speak on another, the audience is unlikely to take your message on board even if you present very well. They will judge your presentation a failure because you have not met their expectations. Reaction. The audience's reaction and therefore the success of the presentation will largely depend upon whether you as presenter effectively communicated your message and whether it met their expectations. As a presenter, you don't control the audience's expectations. What you can do is find out what you have been told about you by the conference organizers and what they are expecting to hear. Only if you know that, can you be confident of delivering something that will meet expectations. Method. How will the presentation is delivered? How will the presentation be delivered? Presentations are usually delivered direct to an audience. However, there may be occasions where they are delivered from a distance over the internet using video conferencing systems such as Skype. It is also important to remember that if your talk is recorded, and posted on the internet, then people may be able to access it for several years. This will mean that your contemporaries, your contemporaneous references should be kept to a minimum. Impediments. Many factors can influence the effectiveness of your message is communicated to the audience. For example, background noise or other distractions, an overly warm or cool room, or the time of day and state of audience, alertness can all influence your audience's level of concentration. As presenter, you have to be prepared to cope with any such problem and try to keep your audience focused on your message. The most successful and memorable presentations have one thing in common. They all have a story to tell, no matter how many facts or charts need to be presented. Incorporating stories into a presentation will keep your audience focused and intrigued. Using stories to support data is a well-known technique in all aspects of public speaking, from motivational talks to in company sales pitches. We will look at 7 steps to structure your presentation using storytelling techniques to keep your audience engaged until the very end. It is easier to separate the correct pieces before you start building, or is it better to search in a big bucket with mixed parts for every new piece you need? We are pretty sure you will pick the first option. In the beginning, it might seem like this opinion would take longer, but the opposite is true. The first step to a successful presentation structure is to brainstorm your ideas and combine them into a rough draft. But first, consider the message you want to relay to your audience. The message. What is the message you want to convey with your presentation? A good starting point is to decide if it will be informative, entertaining, inspiring, or persuasive. In a business setting, you might want your presentation to do two of these things: inform and persuade. If you are a mindset coach for companies, then you might want to entertain and inspire. The main message should be easy to grasp from the title on your first slide. Think of an appropriate way to word what you want to give your audience in 1 or 2 sentences. This can of course be changed later, but having a preliminary title will help get your ideas in order for what comes next. Once you know which direction your presentation will take, it's time to jot all your ideas down on paper to create an outline and rough draft of all the points you will cover. What is the purpose of your presentation's message? 7 ways to structure your presentation. Now that the brainstorming and rough draft are out of the way, it's time to start structuring your presentation. This is the moment when we introduce the storytelling aspect into the acquisition, into the equation, and organized in your rough draft now needs some attitude to really get your message across. We are going to look at 7 different styles of storytelling structures that work great for presentations. They all have a different style of delivery and condense. Choosing which one works for your presentation will depend on your message and on who your audience is. Fact and story. The first presentation structure we will look at is the premise is that the presentation moves back and forth between facts and stories. Presentation guru Nancy Duarte wrote about this presentation structure in her book Resonate. She suggests the mixing storytelling with a relay of can help your audience stay interacted until the end of your presentation. According to Duarte, this type of structure would start off with an initial setting of the present reality. The what is, from there, an invitation to adventure is presented, and the first instance of what could be is told as a story to illustrate how the initial facts can be improved. The comparison of presenting the facts as what they are at the present moment with stories that show how things could be improved is what keeps your audience interested and waiting for more. The conclusion should end at a high point, considerably higher than where it began. The audience should feel like they learned something and at the same time inspired to change. This structure maintains a level of suspense and excitement, perfect for presentation that need to inspire and inform. The presentation structure labeled as the explanation is meant to teach new insights and abilities. Its main purpose is to inform about a process or plan to either fit a problem or learn something new. A good way to incorporate storytelling into the structure is to show the progression of the facts along with the presentation of a story. The presentation is an motion. The lay of the land shows how things stand right now, what the destination is, and how you plan to get there. The point is to get the audience excited and on board as quickly as possibly by showing them the entire process straight up. Tell a story that relates directly to the introduction. Better yet, start with a story. The roadmap is a visual map of how will get to the final destination and reach the resolution. Set the audience on the right track. The first step begins the adventure to get where you want to go. The next step is the middle section of the presentation where all these steps are laid out one by one. Almost there is catharsis where you look back at how much has changed and progressed since the final step. The arrival is the celebration of the end of the journey. The audience should feel like they have learned something new and gained new knowledge. The explanation structure can be used for presentation by consultants that want to teach new ways of doing things inside a company or department. It could also perfectly fit in a sales meeting where a presenter can explain the process of a masterful sale plan. The pitch, as you know, a pitch in the business sense is when a presenter uses the power of a presentation or speech to convince the audience of something he or she believes will improve a system or solve a problem. The pitch presentation structure is like a climb uphill that takes you over a hurdle and on to a positive resolution. The storytelling technique in the pitch is used to show how the presenter's ideas can really improve a situation. By using a real and relatable story, the pitch makes more sense and feels more important. The wide up is quick summary of what's going on right now to present the facts in a way that is easy to grasp and relatable to the audience. The hurdle presents the problem that needs to be solved. Relay the problem with a story so that the emphasis is doubled. The vision presents a glimpses. The vision presents a glimpse into the main idea on how the problem can be solved. The option is the moment when two different options are laid out as possibilities to solve the initial problem. The idea is to give an average option first, followed by a great option second if there have already been tests and experiments to prove these facts. Then these comprise the story. The close is the point where the ideal option is presented as the best and only opinion. The final print tells the audience exactly how the problem will be solved, the steps that need to be taken, and the task to be resolved. The hook is the uplifting conclusion to the presentation, which relays an added bonus to the solution of the problem. Use the pitch presentation structure when you want to convince someone that your idea is the best for their problem. This structure also works when a new startup is looking for new funding or sponsorship opportunities. The drama. There is a well-known structure in literature called the hero's journey, which follows the plight of a main character from the beginning of a story to the end and leaves the reader feeling like they are learned a lesson they will never forget. This types of presentation structure, the drama has a strong storytelling aspect. This is often used to tell the story of an influential company from founding days through trials and tribulations and then finishes with an inspiring show of success. Another perfect presentation for the drama structure is an inspiring personal story. One fine day, the introduction sets the stage with a situation where things are not perfect but just average. Imagine as if it were the first page of a book, whether the setting is laid out and the audience gets an idea of a one time, the idea where the setting is laid out and the audience gets an idea of a time and place. The challenge. Suddenly a problem appears that can't be ignored. The things that need to be solved are presented as a challenge, describing crisis. At this point, the problem is attacked head on, but things get worse until it hits rock bottom. Rock bottom. When all seems lost and everything is at its worst, the story arrives at a standstill. As an added bonus, the presenter can pause for effect. The discovery. This is the moment when a glimmer of light shows up and there is a discovery, a new way of resolving the problem. The rise. By discovering new abilities. The problem can be tackled in a positive way. The return not only are the problem and challenge resolved, the structure and the audience break through and reach an unexpected happiness threshold, opening the world to a whole new range of possibilities. The lesson conclusion is reached with no unforgettable lesson and resolution. The audience will feel inspired, informed, and entertained. Situation, complication, and resolution. Most presentation in the realm of business to business sales. The business consultancy follow the situation, complication, resolution, structure. It is three element story linked line linked by the words but and therefore. The starting point is the situation where current conditions are shown in an unbiased and transparent way. The situation connects to the next step through the word but. A simple example, our home decor company is selling pretty well this month, but this is when the complication is presented. In the above example, it could look something like this. One home decor company is selling pretty well this month, but we have been spending too much on international shipping. When presenting the complication, use facts to prove it. Present it as the challenge that needs to be overcome. The complication is a low point. The complication is a low point, but from a low point we can only go up. The final destination is the resolution, which is connected to the complication with the word therefore. Our home decor company is selling pretty well this month, but we have been spending too much on international shipping. Therefore, we need to start suing a new company that has a better price range and great service. Back up all of your information with real facts and proof. Situation, opportunity, resolution. A similar structure to the one above. The situation, opportunity, resolution replaces complication with opportunity. This three-part structure is also joined by the words but and therefore. The difference is that instead of the movement going down and then up, it goes slightly up and then levels out. This structure is perfect when you need to show that something is not that hard to fix, that the problem might not be big after all, and that the solution is easy to grasp. A presentation that follows this structure could turn out to be quite short if only the facts are presented, but that would leave the audience feeling like is that is. Adding an interesting story to help the audience relate makes the overall presentation more effective. Hook, meet and pay off. This presentation structure, like this drama, is deeply founded in the art of storytelling, while the hero's journey is more of a literary technique. Hook, meet and pay off is more like a spoken word progression. The idea is that with the hook, the presenter gives the audience a sense of place and time, plus a situation that will put them at the edge of their seats wanting more. The meat is the middle section and usually the longest part of the presentation where the story progresses and all the information is relayed in an interesting and inviting way. The payoff is the inspiring conclusion that circles back to the beginning and leaves the audience feeling inspired. It's like when you come out of the movie theater, you feel better about yourself and the world around you, as if you have learned something important that will make your life a little better. Preparation, research your topic, format the slides, speak on what you know, needs outline, main points. Note cards versus full-sized paper. Practice. Practice makes perfect. Revision. Get the timing right. Practice in front of people in the venue. Fix things that don't work. Gets you used to being in front of an audience. Presence. Giving the presentation. Only a small proportion comes from what you say. Posture, tone of voice. Don't rush. Nervousness, fight is common. Body language, voice tone, gestures, eye contact, positive attitude, clothing comfortable, appropriate. Maintain eye contact. Use notes if you need them. Think about when to use handouts. Advantages of using a PowerPoint. Portable, professional, can and graphics, can add graphics, clear, can use for handouts. Disadvantages of using a PowerPoint depends on technology, lack of audience contact, can't add to it, overcrowded. Don'ts. Read directly from notes, read directly from screen, turn back on audience, slouch, hands in pockets, no arm or you nose, no nervous gestures, talk too fast, talk too quickly, do's, eye contact, can glance at notes, appropriate gestures, rhetorical question to involve audience, 10 successful tips to control the butterflies. Now the room. Now the room. Become familiar with the place of presentation. Now the audience. Greet or chat with the audience beforehand. It's easier to speak to friend than to stranger. Know your material. Increased nervousness is to an preparedness. Nervousness is due to unpreparedness. Relaxation. Relax entire body by stretching and breathing so as to ease the tension. Visualize giving your speech. Visualize yourself giving your speech from start to finish. By visualizing yourself successful, you will be successful. People want you to succeed. The audience is there to see you succeed, not to fail. Don't apologize. By mentioning your nervousness or apologizing, you will only be calling the audience's attention to mistakes. Concentrate on your message and note the medium. Focus on the message you are trying to convey and note on your anxieties. Turn nervousness into positive energy. Transform it into vitality and enthusiasm. Gain experience. Experience builds confidence, which is key to effective public speaking. Possible fears and how to deal with them. Forgetting what to say. Prepare and use notes or cue cards. If you forget, take a deep breath and don't panic, as you will forget even more. Disruptions, people shouting out or being rude during your presentation. You control the presentation. If people are being noisy, disruptive or rude, you have the right to ask them to leave. If you are unwilling to do this yourself, contact venue security if they are present. Getting lost. Allow plenty of time to get to the venue. Take a contact number to call if you get lost. Plan out the route beforehand. Take a text if needed. questions, not knowing the answer to questions, people asking questions to trip you up. Prepare your common questions beforehand. If you can't answer straightway, take their details and get back to them. Speaking in front of people, practice in front of a small audience. First look at just above the heads of the audience. Sometimes you will be nervous, accept it and carry on. Breathe deeply, take your time, test the microphone, smile. PowerPoint tips. Look at the audience, not the slides. Don't overcrowd. Pay attention to color and layout. Print out slides. Test beforehand. Dealing with questions. Questions show people are listening. Allow time to deal with them. Decide when to answer them. Try and anticipate. Don't be afraid to stop and think. What if I don't know the answer? Open it to the floor. Take details and answer later. Repeat the question back if you don't understand it. To sum up, preparation is key. Practice. Watch out for tone and body language. Your flip chart or PowerPoint is a compliment only. Don't let it take over. Questions are good, but prepare for them. Fears can be tempered with good presentation. Practice takes you from here. So dear brothers and sisters, you are listening how to present about any personality. He or she is your favorite. Sometimes in IELTS kinds of classes, we ask these things from the students. Who is your role model? And they are to present about the role model. So it is really important for our scholars and learners, university scholars, collegiates, those who are so associated with learning strategies. What is the text persuasive? If you want to buy a new phone and your parents do not allow, what do? You try to convince them. How? By giving them various reasons to they come to agree with you. Look at in the diagram given into the text. This is called persuasion. It refers to an act of trying to convince someone to agree with your point of view. If you think about it, we all are surrounded with persuasion in our daily lives. We may not realize it, but we are constantly being convinced about how we lead our lives. For instance, the advertisements that you read in newspapers or watch on TV, they all are trying to persuade you on something or the other. Through this ad, you are persuaded to help in the literacy of the children who do not have the access to education. This appeal is not to your rational mind, but to your values and emotions. The aim of any such persuasion is influence or change the reader's belief, attitude, behavior, and views. A persuasive essay thus refers to an essay written to convince the reader with the writer's point of view and agree or disagree with it. To achieve this, the argument is developed on the basis of the writer's personal opinion. According to Aristotle, according to Aristotle, there are three modes of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos refers to ethical persuasion, which also comes from credibility of the writer. Pathos refers to the emotional appeal made by the writer. Lastly, logos to the logic addressed to the rational mind. The appeal is made through a logical argument by presenting facts, figures, and research. The previous unit, argumentative essay, dealt with this logical thinking and structure. However, pathos is a way of convincing a reader by creating an emotional response among the readers. It could be an emotion of fear, anger, sadness, pity, horror, disgust, excitement, etc. Empathy in the reader is usually evoked by the reader. Persuasive essays are designed to influence a specific audience on specific issue. The writer in these essays does not use facts and figures as evidence in support of the perspective. So it becomes even more important for the writer to present his views in a credible manner. This credibility of the writer is known as ethos. The reader should be able to trust the writer in order to agree and be convinced by the writer. This can be achieved by a consistent and proper use of and command over the language. Grammatically errors or inconsistent use of sentence structure could lead the readers astray. Difference between argumentative and persuasive texts. Before we delve further into details about the structure and organization of persuasive essay, it is imperative to understand the difference between persuasive and argumentative type of essays. Since you have already covered argumentative essay in the previous unit, you must know what an argumentative essay is. Sometimes both argumentative essay and persuasive essay are synonymously used. The purpose of the writer in both kinds of essay is to influence the reader's beliefs and opinion. However, there still remains a difference between the two. Study and table below to understand these differences, which will enable you to further identify the two types of essay in the comprehension passage. Argumentative essay, it is based on logic. Persuasive essay, it is based on emotion. Argumentative essay, it is formal and academic in nature. Persuasive essay, it is uses informal style as it seeks to evoke emotions. Argumentative essay, the aim is to present the argumentation as valid and reasonable. Persuasive essay, the aim is to convince the readers with the writer's point of view. Argumentative essay, hard evidence are used like statistics, surveys, experts, etc. Persuasive essay, heartfelt emotions are used to arouse empathy of the reader. In argumentative essay, appeals to the mind of the reader, but in persuasive essay, appeals to the emotion in the reader. In argumentative essay, the reader understands the evidences and based on it takes a stand. But in the persuasive or emotional essay, the reader feels for the cause and takes a stand. In argumentative essay, the conclusion comes across as logical. In persuasive essay, the conclusion comes as an emotional response to the cause. In persuasive essay, the writer does not include alternate arguments. But in argumentative essay, the writer takes into account the opposing or conflicting views as well. In the argumentative essay requires through research on the topic to present a coherent argument. In persuasive essay requires an understanding of the audience in order to appeal to their emotions. In argumentative essay, the tone of the essay is calmer. In the persuasive essay, the tone of the essay is emotional and aggressive. In the argumentative essay, example ad of Dettol shop, which says 90% of the dermatologists recommend Dettol as it has been scientifically proven to reduce or kill the infecting germs by 98%. Note the use of expert to establish the credibility of the product. In persuasive essay, example ad of a lost puppy which says, "How much do you love me?" Note the emotional appeal to the audience. So brothers and sisters, you are knowing what are the differences between persuasive and argumentative essays written in the text. Structure of persuasive text. The program is essentially a unit of thought, not of length. There are three ways to persuade: inverted pyramid, traditional pyramid, or through a case study. Inverted pyramid refers to a situation where all the important information is given first. In this type of structure, you would get the writer's stand in the beginning of the essay. There is not much to guess for the reader apart from the reasons that the writer develops in the entire essay. In the traditional pyramid, the most important information features in the end. That is, the stand of the writer comes in the conclusion after giving all possible reasons for his position on the matter. The writer gently leads a way for the reader. The opinion of the writer comes as culmination of the arguments presented in the body of the essay. In the third type of structure, which is called a case study, a profile is presented in front of the reader. The reader reads the profile and understanding the arguments through a presented experience. In the case of persuasive essay, this profile on the shared experience might not come from an authority or an expert, because the aim is not to seek the legitimacy of the point of view, but to evoke emotions in the reader by personalizing the matter. Real stories of real people provide a link to the readers. These anecdotes are treated as views which do not require any alternative opposing views to be discussed. Hence, they are a bit aggressive in nature. However, these are neither against nor do they contradict any logic or ethical values. A persuasive essay is usually structured into 5 paragraphs, divided into a introductory paragraph, 3 body paragraph, and concluding paragraph. All these paragraphs are very important to the essay and have separate purpose in the essay. Let us look at them in great detail to understand the organization of a persuasive essay. The first paragraph introduces you to the topic of discussion. Thesis statement is given in this introductory paragraph, whether the readers are acquainted with the facts of the essay. This paragraph usually begins with a catchy phrase or a declaration to grab readers' attention. For instance, an essay on awareness of recycling could begin with, "Looks bad and smell disgusting." Now, the very first sentence of the essay would attract the reader to read further. Exclamatory remarks such as this are often used in this essay. The importance and need of the topic are also discussed in this passage. In these paragraphs, in an inverted pyramid style essay, this paragraph also clearly states the writer's point of view, whereas in the traditional pyramid style essay, this paragraph would only cater to the explanation of the topic to be discussed. The style is very carefully chosen by the author according to the topic. The next three paragraphs, which are called the body language in an essay, provide the reasons for the writer's perspective. The writer gives reasons one by one in the three paragraphs, validating the point made in the essay. These are separate declarations which state the mind, the idea of the topic, and develop the argument. The aim of all these reasons is to convince the reader about their acceptance. In a persuasive essay, the oppositional or conflicting ideas are not presented because the flow of the entire essay is not dependent on any authority or factual information provided, but what adds value to the essay is how much the reasons are able to evoke the emotions of fear, sympathy, pity towards the discussed topic. The need to present a well-rounded argument is not felt in a persuasive essay, since the approach to the topic and the perspective is not logical but rather emotional. The concluding paragraph revisits the thesis statement. The concluding revisits the thesis statement and reiterates the point of view of the author. The paragraph is most effective because it often directly addresses and uses and urges the reader to act and react with writer. The assertion is strongest with this ending paragraph, and it encapsulates the author's perspective. As a reader, you would be able to clearly state the author's point of view, what he expects the reader to know or think or do, and what emotion is the author trying to evoke in his readers. The tone of these essays is calmer and many a times conversational. It is with an aim to present the author as a friend who can be trusted with his views on the important topics. Emotive vocabulary and rhetorical questions are frequently used in persuasive essays. Readers are also treated inclusive to the topic by using certain pronouns and by deliberately making direct appeals. The readers are made to feel that they are an important part of the topic and are directly affected. It is made related by the writer. Persuasive text sample: life beyond academics. Academics has always been an essential part of human development. It prepares us to survive in the outside world and establish an identity of our own. But is an individual's development restricted to merely academics? In India, from an early age, we have been taught that education is limited to the boundaries of academics only. The idea of getting out into the field a hoax. This has hindered students' development. But the truth is that education represents a considerably broader field than we know of it. Our teaching from the basics has been focused on getting good grades and job offers rather than being in the 21st century. The pure academic type of education is slowly paving way for a whole new type. The paradigm shift in the whole education system is evident. People have now come to understand that education is a 360-degree activity that should focus on students' overall development rather than restricting him or her to the classroom. Co-curricular activities that take place outside the classroom but reinforce or supplement classroom curriculum in some way have become a point of focus today. These activities help in growth of the child in more than one day in more than one way. Participating in such activities helps youngsters grow mentally, socially, and individually. Intellectual development of a student is developed in the classroom, but for the aesthetic development, such as team building, character building, and physical growth, students must step out into the outside world. For instance, if a student is a part of school football team, he or she will learn teamwork and coordination in a practical manner which cannot be taught in the class. Similarly, in the colleges and institutions, there is a need for practical exposure so that the students can experience the actual working of an industry. For example, taking a student to a manufacturing farm will give him or her the real insight and better learning of the industry. Catering to this change, most professional colleges, including B schools, have started to providing practical exposure to students through regular guest lectures, industrial visits, conferences, seminars, cultural festivals, and so on. With industry visits, students are able to better identify their prospective areas of work as in the overall organizational function. Moreover, they help enhance interpersonal skills and communication techniques. In addition, guest lectures are equally important for all around the development of students. It is a great way for students to gain maximum exposure as guest speakers talk about their real life experiences and note what is there in the textbooks. Through such events, students are made to participate and coordinate different events wherein they get to know how exactly things are managed. Classroom teachings provides the foundation and co-curricular to extracurricular activities provide practical exposure and opportunities to implement what students learn in the classroom. This helps in developing the overall personality of the students, including various soft skills in them which otherwise are difficult to teach. Clearly, life beyond academics creates creative and empowered professional explanation. In the above passage, the writer aims to convince the reader about the significance of extracurricular activities for children in school. If academics ensure knowledge, taking part in activities books help the child in shaping a personality. Empathy is evoked in the essay, wherein the reader is made to understand what a child needs apart from the bookish knowledge that one gained from classroom and books. The writer's right tries to convey the importance of overall development of a child in today's time. The growing competition seeks an active, creative mind which can only be achieved by going beyond the classroom studies. The writer does not give any facts and figures to establish the point of view, but he talks about how experience are gained apart from academics. The writer is not fulfilling any revolution, but is talking about a certain shift that can be noticed in the 20th to be able to adapt to that change. Reading strategies. In order to fully grasp the meaning behind the persuasive essay, you need to keep certain things in your mind. The whys and whos of the essay while you are reading it. Firstly, you need to know what the author is trying to say. Try to comprehend the points of view of the writer. Be sure of the argument. Secondly, what is the purpose behind this persuasion? What is the writer trying to do? Is he trying to promote or sell a product? Lead the reader to a certain specific action. Demonstrate a thought Demonstrate thought by taking on the role of a reader. The role of a leader. What are the reasons behind this? Is it logical, ethical, or emotional? In case of persuasive essay, it must definitely be emotional. Identify the emotion. Is it anger, sadness, pity, fear? The pathos is present is important to the essay. Thirdly, any writer would give a argument reason according to the audience or reader. So think about the writer's audience. Who is the intended audience? You should be able to understand who the writer is trying to convince, who is the expected reader. Once you know the reader, you should be able to identify the reasons that the writer uses in the essay to convince his reader. The proper use of language, appropriate jargon, conventions are all done on the basis of the identified readers of the essay. Answering these things while you are reading an essay would definitely help you in gaining a better understanding of the whole argument that the writer is trying to present. Practice text. I was in Hyderabad giving a lecture when a 14-year-old girl asked me for my autograph. I asked her what her goal in life is. She replied, I want to live in a developed India. For her, you and I will have to build this developed nation, developed India. You must proclaim India is not an underdeveloped nation, it is a highly developed nation. India is an old civilization and extremely complex society. Her glorious past, her glorious past, natural beauty, resources, vast size, and above all, her unique geographical location has always given her the pride of place in the world. With the ups and downs of history, it has retained in vibrancy. Yet, due to carelessness and lethargy on our part, and due to the negative slant of the media here, we as a nation to attain the status of a developed nation thus far. In this famous speech delivered in IIT Hyderabad on 25 May 2011, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam outlines his three visions for his motherland India and pleads for Indians to be involved in the nation building process and to make India a developed nation. In 3000 years of our history, people from all over the world have come and invaded us, captured our lands and conquered our minds, yet we have not conquered anyone because we respect the freedom of others, and that is the reason for his first vision of freedom. India got its first vision of this in Indian rebellion in the year 1857 when we started the war of independence. It is this freedom that we must protect and nurture and build on. We have been a developing nation for 50 years, and so it is time we see ourselves as a developed nation. In terms of GDP, we are among the top 5 nations of this world. Our poverty levels are falling, our achievements are being globally recognized today, yet we lack the self-confidence to see ourselves as a developed nation. India must stand up the world. Unless India stands up to the world, no one will respect only strength respects strength. We must be strong not only as a military power but also as an economic power. Both must go hand in hand. Dr. Kalam says that being the project direction for today India's first satellite launch vehicle SLV-3 was the first milestone in his career. Second was when Agni met its mission experiments in 1994. Third came the partnership between DRDO and Department of Atomic Energy removing the plane of little boys and girls in hospital by replacing heavy metallic sleepers calipers weighing over 3 kilograms each with 300-gram calipers was the fourth bliss or milestone of his career. Dr. Kalam wonders how the media in India could be so negative, giving the example of Dr. Sudarshan, who has transformed the tribal village into a self-sustaining, self-driving unit. Dr. Kalam says that the media is not observed with the bad news and failures and disasters. In Tel Aviv, where gory killings, deaths, and bombardments take place every now and then, the front page of the newspaper had the picture of a Jewish gentleman who in 5 desert land into an orchard and a granary. It was this inspiring picture that everyone woke up to Dr. Kalam. It surprised at the people's obsession with phone things. We want phone TVs, phone charts, phone technology. There is an obsession for everything that is imparted. According to Dr. Kalam, self-respect comes only with self-reliance. In India, we the people blame the government for being insufficient, the laws for being too old, the municipality for not picking up the garbage, etc. But what do we do about it? In Singapore, you don't throw cigarette butts on the road or eat in the stalls. You wouldn't dare to eat in public during Ramadan in Dubai or go out with your head uncovered in Jeddah. You would not dare to buy an employee of the telephone exchange in London at £10 a month to see to it that STD and ISD calls are billed to someone else. You wouldn't dare to speed beyond 55 mph in Washington and tell the traffic cop about your heavy political connections. You wouldn't check on empty account shell anywhere other than the garbage pail on the beaches in Australia and New Zealand. Why don't you spit pan on the streets of Tokyo? Why don't you use examination jockeys or buy fake certificates in Boston? You who can respect and conform to a foreign system in other countries but cannot in your own. You throw papers and cigarettes on the road the moment you touch Indian ground. If you can be an enrolled and appreciative citizen in an alien country, why cannot you be the same here in India? We go to the polls to choose government and after that forfeit all responsibility. Go to polls to choose a government and after that forfeit of all responsibility. We expect the railways to provide clean bathrooms, but we are not going to learn the proper use of bathrooms. We want Indian Airlines and Air India to provide the best of food and toiletries and expect the government to do everything for us whilst our contribution is totally negative. We sit back wanting the government to do everything for us while our contribution is totally negative. We expect the government to clean up, but we are not going to stop chucking garbage all over the place. Nor are we going to stop to pick up a stray piece of paper and throw it in the bin. It comes to social issues like women, dowry, girl child, etc. We make loud, drawing room protestations and do the reverse at home. Our excuse is the whole system which has to change. How will it matter if I alone forego my son's rights to a dowry? So who's going to change the system? What does a system consist of? Very conveniently for us it consists of our neighbors, other households, other cities, other communities and government, but definitely not me and you. And for all these negativities on our part, we blame it on the system. The whole system has to change. We seem to justify. When it comes to making a positive contribution to the system, we lock ourselves along with our families into a safe cocoon and wait for Mr. Clean to come along and work miracles for us. Or we leave the country and run away. Like lazy, coward hounded by our fears, we run to America to bask in their glory and praise their system. When New York becomes insecure, we run to England. When England experiences unemployment, we take the next flight out to the Gulf. When the Gulf is war struck, we demand to be rescued and brought home by the Indian government. Everybody is out to abuse and molest the country. Nobody thinks of feeding the system because our experience is mortgaged to money. Dr. Kalam winds up with the words of J.F. Kennedy to his fellow Americans and relates it to the Indians. Ask what we can do for Indian. Ask what we can do for India and do what has to be done to make India what America and other Western countries are today. So dear brothers and sisters, you are listening the present situation of our nation. It's the report economically, socially, politically, which is addressed by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam throughout the world. So what is the greatest requirement of our nation? That is cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to God. It is the mantra. It is the great word for the nation, for improving our nation, for improving the thought of our personalities. Indian land is the land of different personalities on the level of different classes like agriculture, industry, service sector, communication, transportation, all the sectors of the economy is greatly required cleanliness. What's the role of cleanliness in these sectors? In our economy, if we are clean and we are true, sincere and honest, then we will devote ourselves honestly and sincerely towards our duties. So it will be a great justice with the humanity. Secondly, in the society, there are some social rules and dear brothers and sisters, you are listening present indefinite tense. It helps you in keeping your mind in present. How? Because all the laws of nature that we have, it is always tell us how to keep your mind in present. Because the all laws of nature are provided in the form of present tense. Secondly, another laws that are made by the science and economy, society, and from the other departments that are also presented in the form of present tense. All the laws about the five elements of our human body. Our human body is made by five elements: air, fire, soil, sky, and water. And if we explain and expresses about the water as it's the nature of water, that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius and freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. Nature of the water, and which is explained and which should be described only in present indefinite tense. Dear brother and sisters, you are listening how to keep the concept in understanding, in mind forever about the tenses. So first tense is very clear. First idea, that is affirmative, assertive, declarative. So these are the words optionally that we can use as per the given concept in the different competitive books. You will know and you will read this thing differently, but it's the meaning is only one idea, one thought, one time. Because whenever we are in 100% present sense of mind, then idea directly comes in our mind and we try to express it directly without bringing any change. So the form of first step is indefinite tense. If time is indefinite, at that time means not only minutes, second and hours, but our calendar, whole calendar. In the calendar we read there 365 days, and above it we read months, years, all type of classifications of the time is counted in the tense. So here we are talking about the first tense, that is present indefinite tense. If time is indefinite, but something is indefinite, that is our action. Our action is always indefinite because we don't know when the action was started and when it will end. For example, we can take the example of the earth, when it started moving on its axis and when it will finish its motion. We cannot describe. We don't know this thing, but it is definite that its action is sure, it's definite. So we can define it in present indefinite tense only. So this is the law of nature. These are the laws of nature, that the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. So we are to explain it, we are to describe it, we are to define it only and only in present indefinite tense, because this is the nature. Nature gives us, teaches us, nurtures us, treats us to keep our mind in present tense. So dear brother and sisters, always be in present indefinite tense. While describing this present indefinite tense, you will know the scientific laws. Scientists, those who have researched in their different fields, they have made principles and doctrines of lifestyle and in the different fields for applying in the different methods of life. We must have to adopt in present. So these are the principles and doctrines. They devoted their time in preparing, in knowing, in researching, recreating, reoperating, redeveloping something. So that are also expressed in present indefinite tense. Above it, our social laws, what our society says. How do we live in the society, in our relations, as per the given terms and conditions of our society, we are to follow them, and by following them, we are to keep our mind in present indefinite tense. Beyond it, there are the different subjects in the study of your school, college and university. Like there are different branches of science, engineering, medical science, mathematics, history, medical arts, non-medical, medical. So these are the fields. In the different fields we find that there are the laws, rules and regulations that can be described only and only in present indefinite tense, because all the changes that comes in the different type of principle and doctrines, all these are defined in present indefinite tense. So don't be confused. Always keep in your mind that when there is permanency, when there is universal truth, when there is no temporariness, then we describe it in the present indefinite tense. It is certain that the earth has two motions. One motion is rotation, second motion is revolution. Earth revolves on its axis, that is rotation, and when it starts revolving around the sun, it's the second motion of the earth. So on these basis the grammar is divided in two types. One is permanent grammar, second one is temporary grammar. What is the permanent grammar? That is the symbol that is shown by the rotation of the earth. And second one, that is the revolution. Revolution is the symbol of functional and structural grammar, that is changeable, that is not permanent. So dear brother and sister, you know the concept of English grammar. Every word of English is practical, is full of practical. It has its own perfect meaning, complete in itself. But when will you keep in your mind permanently? It can be possible only when you will understand the laws of nature. This is only the nature that will provide you, that will make you easy to understand the laws of different type of relativities and connectivities with nature. As per the nature, we feel that around us we have different type of celestial bodies. These celestial bodies help us in understanding the different rules and regulations, laws, terms and conditions of the nature. In the daytime, the sun does its duty. In the night time, the moon does its duty. These all celestial bodies are also utilized, and these are disciplined. These are having the disciplined lifestyle. So likely them, man must lead the lifestyle, disciplinary lifestyle, that will help the man to keep in your mind in present forever. So dear brothers and sisters, through the disciplines we learn how to spend the life comfortably and better, understanding, nicer, finer, greater, for the betterment and upliftment of our nation and society. Definitely we can bring a great change in our nation, society, personally, professionally, economically, politically, in all the streams. But it depends upon your thought, upon your intention, upon your actions. More important, our actions. Our actions are more important, and it is said that actions speaks louder than words. Undoubtedly we can say, because it was the great thought of Swami Vivekananda. When he went in the America, he addressed the whole world by saying that, dear friends, brothers and sisters of the America, brothers and sisters of the America, he addressed them. There is no discrimination on the basis of brothers and sisters when we talk about the spirituality. So this was the great spiritual lesson which was described by Swami Vivekananda, and he expresses that one idea, one word, one thought can change the whole nation. It is in the man's power, it is in the hands of man that he can bring visionary and revolutionary change in the nation. Everyone is responsible for all these things, all the drawbacks, shortcomings and faults that we have around us, that is due to the feelings of negativities, anger, avariciousness, falsification, being erotic. So these things are really comes in the form of hurdle, obstacle, hindrance in the ways, in the flight of, in the freedom of this soul. Everyone knows this thing. If through the freedom of mind we can research, we can launch, we can invent and innovate different type of facilities, different type of softwares in Google and in other different type of social media like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If we can invent these things by the freedom of our mind, then how is the maker of mind? Who is the controller of mind? How we can reunite this soul with the God, and how he is? We must try to innovate and invent on it. We are the inventor, we are the researcher, undoubtedly we can say. But when we will become the true researcher, true inventor, true innovator, by doing the research inside, true research says that who is speaking with you, who is speaking in you, who is listening in you, who is listening with you, who is reading with you, who is reading in you, who is writing with you, who is writing in you, who is learning in you, who is learning with you. These are the things that are required the true research in the language. Linguistically, linguists know this thing that they use different type of strategies and techniques in through the electronology, technology, digitology. We are using different type of electronic devices. Day by day we are inventing them. But who is the maker of these things? That is our mind. And mind has the closeness and nearness with the nature. If we will destroy the nature, if we will spoil the nature, we cannot survive healthy lifestyle for a long time. So it is very necessary that we are to keep our surroundings neat and clean for creating oneness, equality, unity in the humanity all over the world. So it is a true aim of our spiritualistic nation. Whether the whole developed nations are in conflict, they are struggling each other, but India has its own specific value in the form of superb spiritualistic standard in the world. So we are to maintain it, create it, generate it through the words of Swami Vivekananda, and one day we will get success definitely. Success means not the destination. As per the thought of our holy scriptures from the holy land of India, we must learn this lesson that unrelentingly, unceasingly, unstoppingly we are to keep it on. Our present Prime Minister Sri Dr. Narendra Modi ji also efforting, whose role model is Swami Vivekananda, and he addressed the whole world theory of the words and thoughts of ideas. Thanks, dear brothers and sisters, those who are listening. Heartily, I cordially welcome, appreciate, admire your presence of mind, 100% presence of mind. Thanks, nice to meet you, nice to see you, all of you. Thanks, God. Thanks, brothers and sisters. Thanks, dear friends.